Hello and welcome to Who Corner to Corner podcast. My name is Geoff and I'm joined as always by my good friend Paul over there. How are you tonight?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. Thank you very much.
And we've got a very special guest with us again tonight who's back by quite popular demand, I would say.
Popular demand.
Yeah. Mr. Al Dewar is here with us this evening. How are you, sir?
Yay!
I'm very good.
Good. Thank you for joining us.
Lovely to be back. I love Paul's name that he's just...
Yeah, you might not be able to see it. Paul has got the Abominable Snow Paul as his screen name, and Al is the Celestial Toy Breaker, and I am Geoff.
Geoff.
So extensive thought has gone into that one.
To be fair, Al started this. He was the first one at this one, and I couldn't let him just get away with it. I had to at least try and match it, which it's not quite the same, but it's the best I could think of in 30 seconds.
Yeah, it's a pretty good effort. I feel like I need to up my game on there a little
I think
bit
you do,
next
mate.
time.
I think you definitely need to up your game.
So
Still very good.
we're back to commentate our way through a classic Who episode tonight, aren't we?
Yes,
and
we are.
we recently did this for a Sixth Doctor serial, which was a lot of fun,
Revelation
wasn't it?
of the Daleks.
Yes, and you two got to geek out and show a lot of fan credentials and knowledge, and I kind of sat there just, chipping in a little bit and absorbing lots of stuff. And we did definitely, we got some messages from people, could Al become the third host with us? They really enjoyed it. So we chat quite regularly anyway, don't we? And we said, would you like to come back?
We do. And this is one of my... I think people probably know, which is probably why they voted for it. But this is one of my favourite Tom Baker stories, basically because it's his first.
Yeah.
And I have very vivid memories of watching this. I even did some swatting on this. So
yes,
did you?
You said you did, yeah.
Well, I was trying to find out whether it was the first recorded story or whether it was just the first transmitted story, but it does seem to have been the first recorded one.
I think it was, because it was Barry Letts's last produced him at the old school, wasn't it? It was the last of the old production team from John Pertwee's days, and then before they handed it fully over to Hinchcliffe.
So am I right in thinking that this script was intended for Pertwee, but was adapted?
No,
No. Okay.
It apparently wasn't, but there's definitely aspects of it that are very Doctor. I mean, it smacks. That's probably just because it's UNIT and it's the threat to Earth, and there's some utterly ridiculous bits in it. And then there's also some
mad scientists as well, isn't it? Which has been a thing, and the kind of golden age sort of stuff was like a bit like Invasion of the Dinosaurs, the year previous.
And it is. You can see Tom Baker John Pertwee being slotted into this story and actually carrying it off. Other than perhaps, as somebody mentioned, the bit right at the end where he takes down the baddie with a plastic bucket full of soapy water. Which wouldn't be a John Pertwee solution, but
No.
whereas when you get to Ark in Space, I just can't see.
No, that's a tonal shift completely then, isn't it? Which is which is kind of nice in a way that this one exists, because you can kind of imagine, like we quite often feel now when New Doctor changes, there's that whole sense of disconnect and almost grief for the old thing, which is never going to come back. So to have the first story of the New Doctor almost be filled with all the tropes that identified the previous era. So the story, everything's still the same, the family the same, this thing, everything is still here. It hasn't really changed. Just the leading person, just the face of the Doctor, but they're still the Doctor. They still integrate with UNIT and everything else, at least in this story. So it's that kind of comfort
softens
blanket,
that transition a bit, doesn't it? Do you remember when Matt Smith turned into Peter Capaldi and the 11th Doctor phoned Clara to help with the kind of transition? I thought that was quite nicely done, particularly for kind of younger viewers, perhaps. I thought you might.
I flipping hated that with a passion. But should we crack on with Robot then before we start getting
we can talk more in depth.
Okay.
Right. So I'll do a 3, 2, 1, and then we can hit play. So 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Off we go. Oh, I love this title sequence.
Favourite ever title screen.
It gives me the feels. It really does.
I do like this version of the theme as well. I've listened to a lot of...
And you see the Doctor in his, mostly in his new costume, right?
Yeah.
I've listened to quite a lot of Fourth Doctor Big Finish, so this theme is quite familiar to me from all of those.
I love it.
Iconic.
It's the theme that takes me back to being a kid.
Yeah.
So did they remount this regeneration? Did they kind of do it again? Did they film it slightly differently for this episode?
I don't think so, because the way they tend to work it is certainly as I understand it, is that two sort of principles never really meet. One kind of buggers off to the BBC canteen and that's a stiff whiskey, and the other one comes in and kind of business as usual.
Yeah, I think you're right, Al. It seems to have been quite unusual for an outgoing Doctor, certainly in the modern era, to be present with the incoming, and I think it was only David to Matt when they were there together, because there's a few photos of them in the TARDIS. But with Capaldi, or Matt to Capaldi, every time I watch that episode, there's a really weird edit where they've obviously shot Capaldi's, he jerks in, do you remember? And they obviously shot Matt doing it, and then even the camera, like, it literally doesn't work, like, as
it does feel odd.
Coherent narrative,
we're straight into the action now. The Doctor's arrived, and here we have the robot approaching that. And I love
robot's POV.
That's really cool.
Pre-CGI, but you don't... You obviously, having watched it a few times, you know that's the robot's pincers, and it's probably two people on either side of the camera.
Yeah,
it probably is. But that effect again, it's probably just one of those, just a piece of glass, isn't it? Cut into the squares in front of the camera. It's as simple as that, and it's still very effective. It still looks good.
Back projection or something, but
it works.
Ministry of Defence. I love the way in these old 70 stories that all these top secret military projects have big signs telling you exactly what's going on inside.
But keep
fantastic.
out,
absolutely. Yeah, keep out. Yeah.
As somebody pointed out, there's a bit later in the story where they steal the nuclear codes, and they're like, "What? Who the hell would give the nuclear codes for the entire world to that old duffer?"
Absolutely. It's such good stuff. And look at this. That's menacing.
Good,
that menacing shadow there.
So I remember seeing the robot at the 50th celebration, or at the museum. The one down in Cardiff and stuff like that. Yes. You may have seen it as well, Al, on your travels as well. It's quite big, isn't it? And was it one of the ones that got freshened up and repaired a little bit? I remember it looked really good.
I don't know, because for years I thought that costume had gone. I don't know why, but I think it must have probably ended up at Blackpool. Probably some of the people listening in might be able to tell us, but when you see it in the flesh, it is flipping massive. And Michael Kilgarriff, who played the cyber leader, obviously later on, he was apparently 6'5" in his stocking soles, so he had
he's big guy.
Lifts on him when he was playing the robot. So it was an imposing. I mean, it was made of aluminium, I guess, to keep the weight down. But again, it's just one of those designs.
It's a great design, isn't it? We'll see it in a bit. It's one of the some things about Doctor Who that have always kind of intrigued me and always grabbed my imagination is some of the designs. They are just. I don't know, I can't really describe, especially of this era, this one, and even the weird-looking robot in the Sontaran experiment, and, the spheres in the Sontaran, the transmat spheres as well, all of that, it used to go round and round in my head when I was a kid, and it would just open up worlds of imagination. It's just really captivating. So this is great. The Doctor's got his shoes, and he's trying to do one. He's trying to do a runner.
John Pertwee always kept his key in the TARDIS key.
He did, didn't he? In Spearhead from Space, he did a similar kind of thing, didn't he?
And Sarah's just gone off. I think my sound's down, but Sarah, I think, has just gone off to investigate the think tank.
She has,
and has completely forgotten about the Third Doctor.
Straight business as usual.
He'd be mortified, wouldn't he?
I know, yeah. Oh, he's found his shoes. There we go. I mean, Tom Baker is just captivating from The Office, and you just cannot take your eyes off the guy. He's such a presence.
He's
Harry
still...
Sullivan.
Harry Sullivan, who's there for no other reason than to become a companion. Again, as somebody, again, this was research that I was doing, but apparently, UNIT never had a medical advisor up until this.
Until they needed it.
They thought they were going to cast an older actor, weren't they? Or at least they had it built in that they might cast an older actor as the Doctor. So they wanted the young guy, again, to be the kind of focus of all the action hero type stuff. But of course, Tom was kind of, in his prime.
Yeah.
He could do all the action and everything. Even though he broke his collarbone in the next story. But,
Isn't it amazing that Tom was... working as a builder like 2 weeks before this, and his acting wasn't really kind of working out, and then he got cast, didn't he?
Yeah, he got seen. They'd seen a few people, I think. Fulton Mackay, I think, being one of them, which I can never see.
Yeah.
And then he was in Golden Voyage of Sinbad, I think.
That's it.
Had been his big movie, but then Crusade. After that, he wasn't really.
Well, I think from what I was reading a while back, there was a series of 3 films that Tom was signed up to do. I can't remember what they were called, but he'd signed up to do all three movies, and they all fell through. The whole project was canned, and he was kind of out of work then, so out of acting work. Sent a letter into the head of serials or whatever it was, Sean. I don't know, Sean Sutton, was it? No, not him, but somebody anyway, and then. They kind of thought, well, as we're casting for the Doctor, he could be the Doctor. So then Barry Letts and Terrence Dicks went out, watched The Voyage of Sinbad, and thought, yep, he's the guy, got him in, had a chat. This is a brilliant scene. I love this skipping scene. This is totally improvised, isn't it, between the two of them? They kind of worked on this in rehearsal. And look at it. Fantastic. I kind of wish we'd had more Harry Sullivan.
Yeah, I know. And it's another fascinating fact is apparently you never get a scene of him in the TARDIS, ever. He walks in the TARDIS and he walks out.
Yeah.
But he never
actually we don't actually see much about the inside of the TARDIS in this season, do we?
No.
It's in the cupboard. So, you may be a Doctor, but I am the Doctor. Now, this bit here where the Doctor kind of runs, or seems to run off, or wants to run off, there's a kind of a fan theory, or something that Terrence Dicks floated about, that this becomes the basis of the Face of Evil. So the Face of Evil, where there's that story where he meets Leela, and the face of the face carved into the mountain is the Fourth Doctor. So I think Terrence Dicks kind of wrote it into the novelisation of The Face of Evil that this could have been the moment when he actually visited the world of the Sever team and interfered with them, and then jumped straight back here almost as if he'd never been gone.
I think that theory works, other than the fact that I think the Face of Evil has a scarf. So I'm not 100%.
You could be right, actually, Al.
But it's a nice stuff. But I like it's one of those things where you get that disconnect from what the TARDIS is doing on the outside to what it's like on the inside, because which I used to quite like with that sort of the lights flashing, and in theory it's on its way, and then suddenly he hears a knock on the door and goes back.
Yeah. There was a theory that remember when Eccleston came back to Big Finish, and people were saying, where's it going to fit in the timeline? It could be in that moment when he gets in the TARDIS and leaves Rose in Rose, and then he comes back, and that's when she decides to go in. And of course, he could actually have gone off for years in that time space before he came back.
Yeah, and they've done that a few times. They've done some stuff with I think they did something with Nyssa and the Fifth Doctor like that, where and then you had Charlie Pollard with the Eighth that ends up travelling with the Sixth. Now this chap here, and I can never remember his name, but I think he's one of the original Dalek.
Yeah, is it Town? Is it?
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah,
that's not going to keep out a mouse.
Come on, that's a big robot. It's holding pretty well so far, though. No, never mind. It was a good effort.
Great expression there.
I love this. This is so 70s, isn't it? It's just brilliant. Pull that phone off. There you go.
I was going to say that's clearly some bloke with a robot's arms on. No, this was something I changed on the toy years later for the second release. Is that in some bits of this story he's got two thick pincers, but in this particular bit he's got a thin pincer and a thick one, and it also changes hands left to right. So
yeah, it does. Yeah, well, presumably you can just pop it off and pop another switch.
Did it come with interchangeable hands on the figure?
No, sadly.
Yeah.
This is what we need. We need a special edition of Tom in Viking helmet.
Yeah.
See, this is a weird scene because this kind of set the precedent for the Doctors all the way along the line, didn't it? That they have to kind of go around trying on different outfits until they can find their iconic one. And it's only when you get to Matt Smith, I think, that it sort of finally settles back to you know, he does what the Eighth Doctor does, and
he grabs it, doesn't he?
Just kind of just wander around and nick something.
That's right. Yeah,
and actually all three of those in the hospital as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
The Pierrot, the sad clown.
Imagine if he'd stuck with one of those costumes.
There we go.
And in my head, there's adventures taking place when he's gone in there and got changed.
Now just imagine now for the young kids of the time, of which you were one, I guess, Al. This is the first time we see the Fourth Doctor. No idea how iconic that silhouette is going to become in the following years.
Yeah, well, he's still the image of the Doctor in. To many people, isn't he, in that outfit? I was watching.
This was the most sort of bohemian, which I think was the look they were going for. Because there's the sort of draw lines between that and the Toulouse-Lautrec poster. With the guy with the sort of slightly mangled hat, and I think it's something to do with the way Tom wears stuff, that you see him stuff his hat in his pocket. That's exactly the same fedora, the poet, as Indiana Jones wears. From the same hat maker in London.
Is it really?
But they're treated completely differently. The Indiana Jones one was obviously reshaped and trimmed so that it sort of sat in a particular way, but it's essentially the same hat. But
interesting.
Tom shoves it in his pocket most of the time, which is brilliant.
Yeah, it's rolled up and shoved in.
I watched, I think it was The Haunting of Hill Place, or one of those ones that's on Netflix, and there's a bit in it where the kids are in an arcade and they're playing a Baker pinball machine, and then they go out for Halloween, and one of the lads is just dressed up as Fourth Doctor, and I thought, whoever's show running this must be a fan. And I looked it up, and I think, he was, and
there's a lot of that. There's TARDISes that turn up in Red Dwarf and a whole bunch of other stuff. It's turned up on The Simpsons and various other.
Yeah, actually, my wife, as Paul knows, is a big Neighbours fan, and one of the houses in Ramsey Street had a TARDIS on the table by the door for ages, and I think they referenced it. One of the people living there was a big fan of the show, so that was quite fun seeing it crop up there. So, Al, when you watched this episode when it went out, do you remember kind of what you thought and how you felt? Because I know you're a big Pertwee fan, and we used to have a sort of living room that had a sort of open fire, and I remember lying on the rug in front of the fire, and actually it was quite hot, but I was sort of glued to the screen, and I remember my mum distinctly sitting, because everybody was watching, sitting behind me, sort of tutting and huffing and sort of saying,
sounds like my family.
I don't think I like this Doctor. He's a bit this and he's a bit that, and I'm like going, this guy's bloody fantastic. Like John Pertwee would have been in the Land Rover and driving it, and Tom's lying in the back of it, and he's still commanding the entire screen.
Yes,
absolutely. Yeah. That's a good point, actually. There's a good difference between the two, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think
often...
Sorry, go on.
No, you go ahead, Al.
I forgot.
I was going to say, sometimes you see people online saying how would your favourite Doctor behave in this episode, whatever it might be. And it's quite fun sometimes to think, because they are essentially the same, person in many ways. But, like you just said there, our third Doctor would have driven off in that, probably at, 80 miles an hour. And
it was I think this story is a slightly ignominious, is that the right word, sort of end for the unit era, because in essence, as we know, it sort of plays out with them being a bit crap at stopping the robot, and as we'll see further on, the Doctor quite often steps in and kind of almost usurps them every chance, and then you don't really see them again until probably Terror of the Zygons.
Yeah. You mean the unit family?
Yeah, and I know. I think Tom had said quite a few times that he wasn't keen on having the sort of unit thing. I think Philip Hinchcliffe sort of probably felt that they'd maybe been done to death a little bit. So certainly once they're ditched, I mean, I think that was the thing about it was the two different philosophies, and I've always sort of erred on the side of the other one. So one philosophy, the John Pertwee one, which is nothing's more going to space, meeting a furry monster is nowhere near as scary as meeting a Dalek in your downstairs shooting back or wherever. Whereas I think the philosophy with Hinchcliffe and Tom Baker was all of time, all of space.
Yeah.
let's go out there and see what's happening. And I'm definitely, more inclined to the latter. I like Earth-based stuff, but by the time you got to things like Planet of Evil and stuff, I was just every week tuning in to find robots and invisible monsters.
And yet, interestingly, they're all kind of rooted in quite familiar stories, aren't they? Because this is the whole era of the pastiche, isn't it? When we're ripping off all kinds of films and horror tropes, and we've got the Mummy and Dracula. Well, didn't have Dracula, but and interestingly as well, this one kind of prefigures that, foreshadows it, because this is like a rip-off of King Kong, isn't it? Or as it kind of plays out.
Somebody made that's a good point. Somebody made the analogy. It's actually Frankenstein, because somebody builds a robot, which then becomes conflicted with its programming, and then sort of goes on the. See, that kind of shot would get derided nowadays, but actually I thought that was quite...
It's all right, isn't it?
Yeah, it's all right.
That's the thing, isn't it? Because in the day, we'd have been watching this on very small TVs.
Yeah.
I think a 21-inch TV would have been quite a luxury back in the day. Yeah. So.
And the old Sten gun.
Yeah.
One of my twins...
This is the first... That could have gone so wrong, that shot.
Especially with that scarf.
He could have broken his collarbone.
Yeah.
If Tom Baker hadn't cleared that Land Rover, it's like the bit where Peter Venkman jumps the fence in the office on Ghostbusters. It's like, oh my God, you were inches from just facing.
One of my twin girls mentioned...
All for the art, darling.
One of my girls mentioned Frankenstein the other day. Can we watch Frankenstein? Because they must have seen something about it at school, or because it was Halloween. And I was like, I've got it, but it's really old now, and it's black and white, and, it's a great movie, but I was like, I don't know whether you'd get scared from it, or whether you'd even remotely like it, be quite slow moving.
Is your oldest?
Ethan's 10 and the girls are 6. And I don't know.
Quite heavy. If it's the old original ones, there's some quite heavy.
It's quite
stuff.
Plotting a bit, isn't it?
Child killing bit, which is
the bit where he throws the girl in the lake and stuff. And they are great films, aren't they?
Oh, they're lovely. Absolutely.
I love the old Universal.
I totally love staying up watching those.
Off topic, but have you seen any of the Monster Land that's opening at Universal in Orlando? That they've got a whole new area with Super Mario World and Fantastic Beasts and How to Train Your Dragon and the monsters. So it's like Transylvania, and there's castles and stuff. And I saw a video of the Frankenstein animatronic. He was phenomenal.
Is it really good? Is it
really
based on
good.
the Karloff one?
I mean, it looks like that, with the bolts and stuff, but it's not his features on it, So they're sort of modernising them a little bit, But it looked great, so hopefully one day a visit.
Here we meet benevolent old Professor Kettlewell.
Professor Kettlewell, yeah.
He's got brilliant, crazy professor hair, hasn't he? Yeah.
Do you know, thought he was the same guy that played somebody else, and I'm trying to remember who the somebody
he
else
was in. He was in The Invasion. Professor Watkins, Isabel Watkins.
Oh, is he
dad?
Professor Watkins.
Yeah, he was in that one. He was. Yeah, I think it was.
It's not who. It's not.
National Institute for Advanced Scientific Research.
Based in a hut.
Hey, we've got to start somewhere, Al.
Yes. Nowadays,
Today, a hut. Tomorrow, the world.
Yeah, a building in the centre of London looks like Avengers Tower.
Yeah.
It's like you say, it's the explicit stating of kind of like national secrets to further the plot. National Institute for Advanced Scientific Research.
But it tells you what it is straight away, doesn't it? It's just there on the tin. Why not? Get on, tell it with that, and get on with the story. There's a lot to be said for that, I think.
And this is the famous sort of. In fact, I think we've missed it, but where the doctor basically says, "Oh, it's the Brigadier says, it's just a crushed daisy," and the doctor's like, "Yes, but crushed by quarter of a ton." That I think is a very Pertwee thing.
Yeah,
that's sort of like you're missing the obvious kind of thing here. Blah blah blah.
He's been watched, isn't he? By that shot. She's looking quite posh here, isn't she, Sarah Jane?
She's dressed up
Sunday
nicely.
Best.
Yeah.
Is this the one she's pretending to be her auntie, or is that the Suntaranic? No, it's the Suntaran
Time Warrior.
Time Warrior. Suntaran experiment. Time Warrior. That's exactly it. Yes, Time Warrior. She does.
Same actor.
She does in person.
Positively no admittance. I love that. Yes. Really mean it now. Just keep out of it.
Yeah.
But no, she goes in anyway.
It's unlocked, but don't come in.
Yeah. Oh, hello.
Bit of
patch of oil on the floor. Spoil your clothes, Sarah Jane. It was oil. I knew it. So we're gearing up towards the end of part 1 now, aren't we? Oh, there he is. Look at that design.
Love it.
It's brilliant.
The Kettlewell K1. So well designed. That
so
head on the top that was miles above Michael Kill. He actually looked out the neck, so there's like a grey.
Did he?
You could see it.
Matte grey bit on the neck, which is a sort of material gauze that couldn't see anything hardly. But...
Yeah.
Now this is a weird thing on the Tom Baker stuff. I'm clicking on the next episode.
Should we do that? Should we do it on the 3, 2, 1? 3, 2. Ready? 3, 2, 1. There we go.
Right, I've got the bars coming in dilly-dum, the TARDIS. There we go.
I just want to say quickly, sorry Al, it's nice there's still not a full reveal of the robot. You still haven't seen all of it.
And I was just going to say the end titles on Tom Baker's, sometimes they're grey and sometimes they're bright blue. And I love it when they're bright blue.
Yeah,
but most of the time, it's a sort of horrible washed out grey. And I don't know whether
it's
that's
a bit yucky looking, isn't it? I wonder why was it different?
Just use slightly different filters on a couple of edits, perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I quite like it when
you get it in the bright blue, and it's obviously a continuation from the from the going in one. Here we go.
Yeah, you can see that bit.
Yeah, it's kind of wobbly on the top of the head, but it just gives it a bit of expression, I suppose. Make you feel the lights with it.
I quite like it when we get different variations on the titles and stuff. Like, sometimes you get a alternate version of the theme in the end credits and things.
I don't think it was necessarily intentional. Mind you, actually, sometimes in these stories, and again with some of the Pertwee stories, they used different theme music, didn't they? They had something that was more like the Trout and Hartnell version of the arrangement of the theme.
Somebody made the point on this. Yeah, that's true. Somebody made and we missed it, but somebody made the point where when she speaks to the director, Sarah Jane basically speaks to Jellicoe instead of speaking to Miss Winters, and the feeling is that being a feminist, she wouldn't have done that. That she wouldn't have made that assumption, and being a journalist, she would have done her research. So again, it's just a slightly odd moment. When, somebody said,
yeah, it's a good point actually, because is it because this is written by Terence Dicks, obviously a bloke, isn't it? So is it what he would kind of think if it was him, rather than what Sarah Jane would think? But
yeah, I think it's just a plot point, isn't it, to get the making assumptions thing over. But
so, Al, over the years, how many different Fourth Doctor figures have you done? Because he's had quite a few different costumes, hasn't he, as well?
Yeah, this is my favourite one. And we've done him. In fact, we did him on a B&M release, and we finally got the jacket, the jacket colour a bit better than it was. It's funny, if you had your time over again, you would do things very differently. I mean, it's funny moving into this era with the new, more involved sculpting and articulation. And at the time, we sculpted all our figures with a very neutral expression. And nowadays, with action figures, that tends not to be the way sort of... you couldn't have them smiling in the old days because you couldn't have teeth showing, because that was difficult to do. So
yes,
you have to, and if you do, you have to back fit the teeth into the mouth from the back of the head, and it all becomes a bit of a faff. But I think if I could go back and redo it, I would. Yeah. There'd be millions of fans,
more expression.
Millions going, burn him!
How dare he?
How dare he? But yeah, I think I would. It's it's weird. We did ball joints on some figures' shoulders, like Morbius, but then on the main line, right up until quite late on, we did the sort of very straight shoulders. We could have had a lot more texture, I think, in the clothing.
Yeah,
which is something that I think adds the dynamism. Whereas we went for a very sort of neutral stand. Yeah, which is fine. It is. What it is.
The technology on it all moves on, doesn't it? And like you say, if you could go back, but maybe back then you couldn't have done what you'd want to do now because it wasn't feasible.
It wasn't available.
When we'd set our style, and you have a kind of choice. You pin your colours to the mast, and you kind of go. And it's been a very successful action figure line, so I can't really sort of moan about it.
So the response to the
robot's just brilliant.
We got two big thick claws now, haven't we?
Yes.
Yeah.
So they are sort of interchangeable, I guess.
In there.
Was it spindly?
Yeah, but this is the thing.
The right one is
occasionally.
So we've got a prime directive in the robot as well. So we've got kind of shades of Asimov's 3 laws of robotics, haven't we, as well? Which kind of comes back later on in the Robots of Death to play into more of a plot point, I guess.
And the robot's voice was Michael Kilgariff's as well, apparently.
Yeah, he did the voice as well, yeah.
He actually did the voicing, which I think is quite good. I'm not sure he is looking out the neck. Did you know that? I'm looking at it and thinking, Is Slade, and she can't be, 6'5". There must. I've seen pictures of him with the head off, and he is looking out kind of above that neck aperture.
Yeah,
but
the shoulders are kind of bulked up a bit, aren't they? So they could be a lot higher than where they actually are, which means his neck.
Yeah, and look, there's a nice shot of the back of the neck, and I think that's Gareth's hair that you're seeing.
Yes, you can see it, can't you? Yeah. There's a big hole there, so he's got room to put his head back. Yeah.
You're not a robot. You've got a massive barnet.
But you know what?
This is a
great. This is a great. There's some great shots going on here, right? This Barry Letts directed, isn't it? If I'm not mistaken.
That bit of blue light on it is really nice. It's really shining and
this is your King Kong bit, though. This is where the cruelty of the sort of deliberately setting him against his programming, and then obviously we've got the bit coming up which goes, that's insanely dangerous. He could have, if some of the safeties had been off, he would have killed the girl.
Would have killed him. It's like in a lot of the shots when you look at them, when there's Sarah Jane and the robot in the same shot, the shot is constructed so that the robot looks even bigger than she does. She looks tiny in comparison to the robot, whether it's shot upwards or downwards. It's
that's right. You're getting
some really clever stuff.
You're getting a lot of those low shots looking up, aren't you, whenever the robot's around, which I think is...
Yeah.
Is
so
her name...
stared at by children.
Oh, was it? Is it Freya? What's her name, Miss Winters? She looks like she's shopped at the same tailor that Vagaroth does. Jagaroth from...
Oh, yes.
Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yes.
I've just Googled.
City of Death.
Yeah.
Count Scarleone.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
The last of the Jagaroth. Yeah.
So, Al, I was going to say the response to the Shooty and Millie figures was phenomenal. And I sent you a few comments and stuff that people sent through to us. People were just blown away, weren't they? And I hope it was pleasing for you guys to hear all that.
It was actually really nice to... I love this bit where the robot's hands off. In fact, it's one of those things that I really wish on the toy I'd made the head removable. It's not, but I wish it had been.
That would have been cool.
You could have the accessory step ladders to go next to it as well.
Yeah.
Perhaps, so.
Swab. What's he swabbing?
Swab. Just a little bit of oil that we could get out of there.
Swab with a WD-40, please.
Oh.
Then it's like stick it back on with the wire trailing out. I think it's gone in the next shot. Yes, it was really heartening to see all the nice comments. And
they went down well, didn't they?
Yeah, really good.
Yeah, I think so. They sort of generally seem to, and they seem to have sold out in a bunch of, and I don't think it'll just be the collectors that are buying them, because the retail figures seem to have gone from a lot of the shops, Asda and various places.
I've seen quite a few, and we've had people message us as well. Pick these two up in, Asda, or, so I think someone found one in HMV that they bought. So, the individual packs in the blister pack been getting out and about, and, people have been
they're about to show the robot a PowerPoint.
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's the old sort of school projector,
OHP.
isn't it? Yeah, that's it.
OHP,
those projectors.
It's not in focus. Acetate. We can't read it.
Yeah. Pay attention to this microfiche.
Tell you what, scarily, it's not that long ago since we were still dealing with OHPs and acetates, is it?
Yeah, I can remember it from school. Yeah.
I
remember my dad had exactly one of those projectors, and it was solid metal, and it weighed an absolute ton. But
the ton, yeah.
Holes used to blow, and they were the expensive bit to replace.
Yeah. My dad had one when he did his talks at fishing clubs and things. Yeah, he'd cart that around in the back of the boot.
Oh, here we go. This is the let's send Harry into
danger.
They've never met the Doctor. They will send Harry Sullivan into.
Yeah, send Harry Sullivan in. He's the man of action. And also, as well, from that, you get to be a real James Bond, which says very conclusively that the James Bond exists within the Doctor Who universe.
Yes.
Yeah.
Facts fans, it's right there. I love Kettlewell's hair.
That
I've said
hair
it
is
before,
incredible.
but it's brilliant.
Paul, why don't you grow yours out a bit?
I'm going to. I absolutely would do that. Yeah.
You should.
And get the little beardy thing going as well. The little glasses. I've already got the tweed jacket.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've got to get it quite long. Now. Yeah. I can't unsee it.
What are you talking about? What? No. It's just bonkers. Apparently, I'm pretty sure I read somewhere that they kind of toned him down a bit in rehearsal. He was going even more OTT.
Really?
And I think him and Tom Baker kind of loved it. But they said he had to calm it down, perhaps. It might be a bit of an old wives' tale, perhaps. I don't know. But I like to think that's what happened.
Yeah,
he was even more vivacious.
Yeah. Tom Baker is brilliant at this sort of stuff where he's being sort of distracting.
Yeah.
while sort of inveigling himself into Kettlewell's confidence.
And the way he looks so somber in the shadows there, the way he just drifted across the back of Kettlewell in that, like that, you know, that with that face, half shadow, it just, you know, when Tom Baker goes, you know, when Tom Baker's Doctor goes dark, he seems to go really dark.
You know, it's the one thing and I love the Big Finish stuff, as I think I've said many times. I really do. But the way Tom plays his Doctor now is always the sort of benevolent uncle. But my absolute favourite Tom Baker stories are where he is decidedly snitty and a little bit arsey. I think it.
Pyramids of Mars is a good one like that, isn't it? Yeah, where he's just got the strop on with everybody.
Yeah, and when he says this is, you know, if you do this, stuff's going to go to shit, and he means it's like whoa, yes, this is a bit like I've left the nuclear codes.
Yeah, that's the one. Just hold on a moment, my dear, while I go down and check it's all right.
Everything's good. No,
jolly good. There we are. The nuclear codes are perfectly safe.
Keep the tea warm.
Hold on a minute.
Sutek. Oh no, sorry.
The robot which is about to steal a disintegrator. Oh, that is he's.
Couldn't he have smashed through the wall?
He had to disintegrate it first. Yeah, I mean, that's why he got a disintegrator gun. Come on, Geoff, there's nuclear codes on here. You don't think it's just any old stately posh home, do you?
I like how the disintegrator gun cut a perfectly robot-shaped hole as well.
I think that was amazing.
It was probably pre-programmed, you know.
Exactly. Was it like, is it Captain Jack's gun that
the square gun?
Shoots out the square gun.
I'm sonic up.
Program. Square is the default, but there's a whole bunch of settings like, you know, robot size, Dalek size, Cybermen handles on the head.
So, Al, have you met Tom at any point over the years?
I have. I when we did the curator figure, well, I saw him once at a convention years ago.
Yeah.
In Coventry, but I actually met him when we did the curator figure. I met him down in Rye, at his local pub, the Mermaid, and he was absolutely brilliant. It was just, it's amazing when you meet your heroes and they kind of live up to your expectations. He was incredibly charming and you know, talked about his charity hospice thing he did work for. But yeah, he was, and it's funny. He was in that. He very much looked like the curator at that point.
Yes,
you know, he was heavier than he.
Yeah.
No, but then,
yes, he's lost weight, isn't he now? Yeah,
that was a decade and a bit ago.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But he's absolutely, you know, still had
brilliant
and has that sort of gravitas.
When I went to the 50th celebration at the XL, it was on the Saturday, and that was the only day that Tom was going to be there. And they did a panel with him, Peter, Sylvester, possibly Colin, and Colin, maybe Paul McGann.
I think I saw a bit of that as well. I must have been there probably the same time. I think
I would have thought you probably were. And when Tom came out, you know, the place went nuts, and he walked slowly across the stage with his cane, you know, acting like he didn't care, but you knew inside he was loving it, and he wouldn't sit with the other doctors, and you know, he perched on the arm of the sofa, I think, and you know, his answers, you know, to the questions were, you know, he just knows how to kind of, in a good way, play the audience, you know, and I feel, you know, quite lucky to have been able to see him there, and then I went to the cinema at near the O2 to watch Day of the Doctor, and that night, of course, and when he turned up and as the curator, you know, the place lost their minds, and I wish I'd been at the XL for the screening, but we couldn't get a ticket for that.
I still go back and watch that little segment. I love that particular story anyway. I think that anniversary story was absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'm a big
so
fan.
well done, and
but the curator bit, gets me every time.
Because it was unexpected, wasn't it? I watched it again last night, actually, for Doctor Who Day, because obviously it was November 23rd yesterday. So I thought, well, I just watched the Day of the Doctor. I haven't seen it for quite a few years now.
Yeah.
And every time when Tom comes out at the end, and I remember when I saw it in the Odeon up here, it was because we knew a lot of maybe what was going to happen. Obviously, we knew Tennant was going to be in it. We knew such and such. We knew John Hurt was going to be in it, and how it was going to. Didn't really know how it was going to play out. But then to have the surprise of Tom actually being there at the end was just.
It was brilliant, and also it kind of foreshadowed what happened, didn't it?
Some of the old faces.
Revisit some
come back,
kind of get out
some
of
the
jail
good ones.
I remember you see the back of his head first, don't you, in it? And I remember thinking, no,
is it?
It can't be.
Yeah, exactly.
And then you see him, brilliant. And he's played the curator for Big Finish a few times, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Right. There's Stranded with McGann, where he's in that.
And
I think I saw a YouTube video of somebody. You shouldn't laugh, but I think they were watching it for the first time, and the voice comes on and says, I really think you might. Somebody shouts out, "It's Peter Cushing!"
Oh no! Destroy the moment.
I wonder how Tom would react.
So.
They're lying to you now, Doctor. They had to dismantle the robot. Yeah, right.
Yeah, this is where he's sweeping up the.
That's quite interesting.
Or something.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I mean, she says we had to dismantle it because it started developing feelings, compassion, and what have you. And obviously, it is starting to develop those feelings, but it hasn't actually been dismantled. It's gone back to its creator, isn't it? So it's a bit like the Frankenstein thing you were saying earlier, Alex. Yeah. It's playing on those sort of tropes at the moment.
That unit are a sideshow in this, aren't they? There's not much for the Brigadier to do other than stand there.
Sadly not. Which I think by this time they kind of mostly weren't they? I mean, I remember in the Three Doctors, they don't have a huge amount to do except run around and get shot at.
Yeah, the Brigadier has a little bit to do.
You get some good lines.
I think John Levine was always, the one that was the most sort of vocally, it all went to crap when John left kind of attitude.
Yeah.
Which I guess if it's been your work for...
Well, yeah.
That probably was how it felt. I think I was wrong, by the way, because I'm trying to think when Unit did turn up, and they turned up in the Zygons, but they also turned up in the Android invasion, didn't they?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, I think there were copies of themselves in the Android invasion, weren't they?
And the Brig's not in that one, but
no, it was Captain Crichton or somebody, wasn't it? Was it Crichton? Critchford, I don't know, can't remember now, but yeah, and they were in the Seeds of Doom as well, weren't they? At the end of that season.
Nicholas Courtney,
no Brigadier.
Did Nicholas Courtney do a Sarah Jane Adventures, and was that one with Matt Smith in it? Do you meet him in that?
He did do a Sarah Jane, didn't he? I don't think it was the one with Matt Smith, and I'm not sure though. Because
Matt Doctor got a call to say he died, didn't he? In one of the episodes, which was quite
Death
nice.
Of the Doctor.
Yeah. No.
That's the one with Joe Grant, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great episode, that one.
Yeah.
It's a trap.
If it looks like a trap and it smells like a trap and it tastes like a trap,
it's a trap.
It's a trap.
It's a trap.
Oh, here come the bad guys. Kettlewell, you thought you had it sussed, didn't you?
Al, I was going to say that 50th weekend was fantastic, wasn't it?
That was brilliant. Yeah, it was sort of Doctor Who had its kind of heyday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
It was a good vibe around there. I didn't go to any of the celebrations, but I had, the whole fact we had things like Paul McGann back as the Doctor doing his regeneration episode and stuff like that.
Well, it's interesting.
That was great.
It's not my claim to fame, but Mike Tucker.
We talked to Mike. Yeah,
I remember he needed Daleks for the 50th, and he needed the 18-inch Daleks. So I actually organised getting him I think it was 10 in the end of the 18-inch Daleks actually made up in the Far East, and then basically sent to him. And so, in fact, one of them turned up at the prop store auction. I think it was the last surviving one, so I'm guessing it was Mike's last surviving screen used one. But yeah, so the character 18-inch Daleks are the ones that get sort of smashed to bits when the TARDIS comes flying through the wall.
When it flies through the wall, yeah. Oh wow, I didn't know
Has
that.
one of you two got gerbils on the run?
No, it's my guineas. They're going
Is it your guinea pigs?
Yeah, I was going to say that. I thought it was the hamster, and then I was like, that's a bit more vocal than my hamster.
It's very vocal, Geoff. Are they doing things they shouldn't be doing? Or
well, I mean, they're two girls. I mean, they might be. I don't know, but they are, I think, really hungry at the moment, and I fed them multiple times today. I think they're just trying their luck, to be honest.
You are the Doctor. How do you do? I've been so looking forward to meeting you.
It's a good
there
voice.
Must be no mistake. Yeah.
Good. And that little. It's all the little gubbins and stuff on that. That costume is just brilliant. I mean, I know it's a bloke in a suit, and I know people take the piss out of it, but
no, it's great. It's a design classic.
Yeah.
It really is. Is it James Acheson who designed it, I
think that's right. I think there's a sketch of it somewhere, isn't there?
Yeah. I think he did some great designs.
Hardware, it's remarkably well designed.
Oh, chat for the ball bearings.
Some marbles.
Oh! Any giant robot can quite easily be overcome by a scattering of ball bearings.
Prime directive.
Yeah. Remind him of it.
See, that little tilt of the head is just to give that
personality, isn't it?
Thing a bit of personality. And bearing in mind we're 2 years before Star Wars at this point.
Oh yeah.
So that's
you're right.
It's really good. Yeah.
Cool robot.
And it is a robot with personality, isn't it? Its movements. There you go, the hat.
He stopped.
My vision is impaired. I cannot see.
My vision is impaired.
Extraordinary.
Don't believe him, Doctor.
Oh, he fell for that one.
He fell for that.
I have a feeling that would have probably taken his head off.
Yes, but based on the door and the pillar and.
As we've since come to learn, the Doctor, whilst he's still regenerating or slightly post-regeneration, is kind of invincible and can actually grow hands back and stuff.
Grow a hand,
yeah, look at that. It's brilliant stuff. I love this story.
It's really good.
It's fabulous. I think part 3 is a bit of a stretch. I think part 3 is when it all gets a bit. It all goes a bit sort of.
A bit left.
Yeah, well, aren't we heading for the sort of vaguely Nazi?
We've kind of seen a few scenes of that already, haven't we? Just look at that. That was Peter Grimwade there as a studio assistant. So he was involved in. There you go. James Acheson. It was Acheson. Yeah. Some names on here. Barry Letts. Directed by Christopher Barry. Why? I think it was Barry Letts. Maybe I get my Barrys confused. There we go. Wow, that was good fun.
I really enjoyed that. Well, shall we reconvene for part 3 and 4 in another week or so?
Shall we do that? Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to.
I reckon we should do that.
I really enjoy just chatting through it with you guys, and I hope people enjoy listening to us as well. I think there's quite a few, good personal stories here and facts and info and things like that. So hopefully,
this story it whips along at a fair old speed.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
Considering it's if that had, not speaking ill of them, but if that had been a Pertwee story, there'd have been at least a 5-minute recap at the beginning, filmed again, like you were saying about, to sort of fill in 5 minutes of, and the Doctor would have been quaffing the old codger's wine while he admiring
rubbish cheese of wine, Geoff.
Admiring the disintegrated safe.
Very
vintage. It's a very different pace. The Doctor's right in at the thick of it. Sarah Jane. It's funny, the relationship, like she just doesn't care that Pertwee's gone, does she? She's like,
no, she doesn't. No,
that's
quite interesting.
That's what makes this next season so exciting, is that relationship between Tom Baker and Liz Sladen was just, you could tell they were just having.
It was another level,
fun.
Wasn't it?
Yeah. When that clicks, I think it helps, because the minute you start to care about the characters, and you get sort of swept away.
And I think it's quite nice that Sarah's already had a season as well. Liz Sladen's already had a season as Sarah Jane, hasn't she? Now she's much more into the character.
Like she's come out of her, come out of herself a bit. And it again, it's something I've read a few places that John Pertwee wasn't really happy on that last season that he did anyway, and you kind of get that feeling. If you think back to things like the Death to the Daleks, and it kind of has a little bit of a plot. I mean, that's another one of the stories I absolutely love, but there's no doubt about it. There's some of it's a bit kind of like. I think in fact wasn't it Death to the Daleks where apparently he kind of that's
it might have been actually
this isn't funny.
Is that it? Yeah.
Which
I think you could be right, Al. I think it was certainly around about that sort of time.
But there's definitely aspects of this story that feel Third Doctor, but I'm guessing that's just because the writers hadn't really had time to get a handle on Tom, and I suspect by the time they started filming and people were seeing,
got an idea, and
they were probably thinking. But isn't it funny as well, though, that back in those days you got 25 minutes of Doctor Who every week, and you got about 6
like
or 7 stories, and they were all 4-parters. Like
4-parters and 6-parters, I think, weren't they? Mostly, I think.
We were watching.
Quite a few of those.
Doctor Who for a long time. Like,
it was just part of your life, wasn't it? Yeah. Constantly, it was like, because I think by Tom Baker's time, maybe not in this one, but I can't remember when this one was transmitted, but
74.
Certainly when I was at school, but I mean, like, it went in the year, because it seemed to me it was like whenever they all started in September. So it's like when the new series was trailed towards the end of the summer holidays. So you'd be like, new Doctor Who, but also school. Back to school. Do you know what I mean? It was that real conflict in my head. I remember.
Yeah, and in Scotland, growing up, you had the news, then you had sports scene with Archie McPherson, and then you had Doctor Who, and it was just like that golden age of Saturday night entertainment.
Saturday night TV,
And of course, don't forget, we had Target novels with covers like this.
Oh yes,
look at that. And the giant robot. I love that. It's called that.
The giant robot.
Now there's a weird thing, because in my head it's always the giant robot, but it is not. It's just robot.
It's robot.
Just called robot. Story.
But I think it had a working title of the giant robot. I think that was what Terrance Dicks wanted to call it. Again, that might be a bit of a myth, but that's my understanding of it. And they just changed it to robot. Almost like Chris Bidmead style, one-word titles.
Yeah.
Castrovalga, Logopolis, robot.
Yeah, and I quite like a short title.
It's easier to remember than that, isn't it?
There you go.
But it's what do they say? It's like Pyramids of Mars. Actually, there's only one. It's the Pyramid of Mars.
Pyramid of Mars.
Explicitly by Sutek in the story. It's the Pyramid of Mars. But it's suddenly called the Pyramids of Mars.
The Pyramids of Mars. Yeah, but it's a great title, though, isn't it?
Yeah.
The brain of Morbius. Pyramids of Mars, the android invasion, the seeds of doom. It's just classic
great
stuff.
Titles. So many Big Finish stuff is like that as well. Horror and
taps
terror
into that, doesn't
and
There's stuff. What I find surprising about the Big Finish stuff, I don't know if you've noticed this, Geoff, but the occasionally the stuff that I think is going to be dead exciting isn't, and occasionally it's the stories that that you would expect. Not like I kind of caned a whole bunch of stories that I hadn't listened to, and then I got to the War Master, and I thought, this could be a bit dreary. I mean, Derek Jacobi always makes a story, but I kind of thought, I'm not sure about this one. And it was all ghost stories. And oh my God, it was
really good.
I've heard it's really good. Yeah, I didn't realise it was ghost stories. I do love a bit of spooky.
You'd love that.
Yeah, maybe I should give it a go.
I mean, there's two in there that are really good.
Mm.
I think it's the second one is kind of, well, that's a bit uncomfortable. But the third one is like fucking hell.
Really?
Really
good. Yeah.
Yeah, I just don't. I remember once because I used to go running outside. Now I've got a treadmill, so I don't need to do that. So I was running, but I used to go running around Shepperton, and my kind of time to run is usually late at night, so it's 9:30, 10. So I'm running around Shepperton. It's dark. I'm at the darkest section of the run, and I'm listening to a Torchwood story called "The Grey Mare."
Okay.
And it starts like the imagery of this horse figure turning up at the door, and I'm running through Shepperton, and it's misty and it's dark and there's no traffic. And I'm literally like running faster because I want to I don't normally get freaked out by anything, but I was like, I'm like, keep running.
I'm just looking them up now. Yeah, the Future Phantoms has just come out, hasn't it? And then there's the good.
I need to listen to a few more of those. Actually, I must admit, I think there are certain titles which because I've dipped in and out of Big Finish. I've sort of lost track of the monthlies years and years ago, so I've dipped in and out of certain titles that I thought, well, they sound really good. The Rani's back or whatever, and whilst there are some really, really good ones out there, it does seem like the ones that have the most expectation are just kind of slightly formulaic. Do you know what I mean? It's like, they tick all the boxes and they tick them well, but it's almost like, well, I've heard that or I've seen that before. The doctor's going to just do what the doctor does, and the master's going to do what the master does. There's lots of ha 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 ha, I foiled your plans or whatever in between times. It's like,
every now and again you get one, and it's not that it's formulaic because I like it. I like a lot of them.
Well, the formula works though, doesn't it? That's the thing. It's.
But again, part of what Big Finish does so well is that, and it is that thing that I love. It's all of time, all of space, out in the universe, exploring new places, which I find infinitely
for the love of
stories. Being stuck on Earth, albeit a lot of the adventures take place on Earth. Some of the fifth adventures are. I think there's one. What's it called? Green Emerald.
Oh, I don't know that one.
Absolutely brilliant.
It's good.
That's a really good story. I mean,
I like the Dracula one that I forgot what that was called now. Where they go into Vlad's castle with Emmett.
Is that the Burning Prince?
I can't remember what it's called, but I remember being really struck by that one. I thought that was such a strong story, quite on the nose. It's quite brutal, quite dark, and it seemed to do the vampire legend without him actually being a vampire, or it not being conclusively so. It's like where the story of the vampire came from. The brutality and the horror behind that. That was really quite something.
I've been listening to Trials of a Time Lord recently, which is the Sixth Doctor.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And
what's that like?
It's good. Well, the Quinn dilemma was great fun. That was like a real celebration of Sixie and his, all of it, and the audio, and the Trials of a Time Lord is, it's great. I haven't finished it yet, admittedly, but it's quite clever. And it's got some good twists in it, and some very funny stuff with characters that you wouldn't normally hear doing things like that. So I've been really enjoying it so far. Yeah, it's been great
stuff. I love this. I have to say their Eighth Doctor. I would love the mini-series with Paul McGann. I think he's so...
Yeah, I would sell my kidneys for that. I really would. And I'd sell Geoff's kidneys as well.
Yeah, I'd say, take them,
A mini-series with Paul McGann of like...
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always say that, you shouldn't... I don't think I'll get in trouble for saying it, but I've always said, and I like Russell T's Hooniverse thing a lot. I think that's clever and brilliant. But if you think of the amount of people that are out there that would pay to go to the cinema to watch a 10th Doctor adventure, or pay the BBC to stream a Paul McGann adventure. When current Doctor is only on screen for 2 months, and still actors that are capable of doing other stuff, there has to be a way of monopolizing on that sort of factor, and having. I know they always say, well, the current Doctor is the only Doctor. And to a degree, I think that's right. But I think to a degree, they're also mutually exclusive in that, you could quite easily have, like I say, I'd pay to go to the cinema to see a 10th Doctor movie.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
I'd pay to go and see Paul McGann on screen being, and I'd still love Doctor Who on telly. It wouldn't change. We've got a Whoniverse now with every,
That's it. And generally people understand that the Doctor has been played by many, many different people over the years. There are many Doctors. So
look at the Star Wars series. They don't follow any. They're not chronological, are they? Now, when people know what
they are, but they
within their own thing they are. But
because we've had like the Acolyte, which is like it's almost like High Republic, I think.
Yeah.
And we have the Mandalorian, which is before the sequels, but after Return of the Jedi.
And that one's moving to the cinema. The next Mandalorian thing be a movie.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
It's just, I think there's opportunity, and
where, the Mandalorian is the only bit of Star Wars Geoff likes.
Yeah, it's true. My daughter, who stopped watching Doctor Who when Matt Smith left, eventually, I think I said the other time, she came back and sat down, and she didn't immediately do it, but I've watched it a few times now, and I went back and watched. I've watched the 14th, the 60th adventure, 4 or 5 times each. I think they're absolutely brilliant, and she's come in, and if I'm sitting there watching them, she would come in, sit and watch them, and that drew her back, and like I say, she would 100%. If I was like, 10th Doctor movie at the cinema, and then
she'd be there.
Do you want to go see it?
Yeah, she'd do it. Yeah,
because that was her Doctor.
Yeah,
100%.
That's right, isn't it?
That's us putting the world to rights.
Put the world to rights. There we go. It's sorted out. We got Paul McGann, a new series as the 8th Doctor.
Are you sitting in the conservatory, Geoff?
Yes,
Geoff is.
Yes, I am.
You've got your winter flannel shirt on there.
Yeah, and I've actually got a.
No wonder the guinea pigs are squealing. It must be freezing in there.
I've got a blanket on my legs. Yeah, it's.
That's awesome.
It's because it's bloody freezing in here. I've got trousers on.
I've got a blanket on my legs. I've got my hot water bottle and my cocoa by my side, and my Ovaltines are brewing in the kitchen over there. And the wife's got me a lovely poultice for when I get up in the morning.
I did a classic where I was wandering around the house in my without my trousers, and the guy who came to deliver my proton packs turned up at the door. And I'm like, hi, and he's like, oh, hi, Ben again. Come to deliver you. And I was like, I haven't got any trousers on. I'm sitting there having a 10-minute conversation with this guy, with this chap Ben, about thank you for delivering it. And I'm like, I'm really sorry, I haven't got any trousers on. And he was like,
But it's what you do in the privacy of your own home. I the other morning didn't have my shirt on because I was boiling hot trying to get the kids ready, and I walked into the lounge as next door left their house, and the girl, the daughter that my son talks to sometimes, she turned and saw me, and I was there with my shirt off, and I slowly backed out of the lounge.
For our younger listeners, this is absolutely conclusive proof that the older you get, the less clothing you wear without a care in the world. It's true. It's what happens.
I'm like the dad on Friday Night Dinner, if you've ever seen that.
Oh, yeah.
My goodness.
That's a brilliant...
It's so good, isn't it?
Jackie.
Yeah.
Do you go in
Bambinos?
the often? Is this a Jewish thing? Jim.
I have no idea what they're
You've
talking
never
about.
seen
Oh, God, that series was
good. It's so good.
One with a fox in the freezer.
In the freezer, yeah. Paul, you got to watch it. It's so good.
I'm going to have to watch it, ain't I?
And, have you not seen Friday Night Dinner?
No, I never have. I've heard about it, obviously, but no, never seen it.
I
feel slightly
because my wife started watching it, and she sort of, when you hear someone laughing like a drum, you think,
what's going on? Yeah, what am I missing?
So,
I think we watched it initially because Simon Bird from The Inbetweeners, and we liked him, and he's very good in it. But Paul Ritter, who plays the dad, is absolutely fantastic in it, and he's sadly not with us anymore. But did you
know he's in another program? So he played the scientist that basically cocks it up in Chernobyl.
That's right, and it's a proper dramatic,
brilliant series. But
I love that. I'll watch that.
Perfect example of a an actor who you can do something hilariously. It was a bit like Michael Gaunt we were talking about the last time, but somebody who can. And I guess that is what actors do, and they're brilliant at it. But he's completely different, serious.
Did you know that he was due to play Swarm in Flux, but became too ill?
Oh, really?
And couldn't do it, and that's how Sam Spruell ended up with the part. Yeah, Sam told us that. Paul, do you remember? Well, obviously not.
No, I didn't.
Mate, I can barely remember what happened yesterday.
Did Paul? What was it that? Sorry, you shouldn't ask that, I suppose. But I don't think I ever heard what it was that got.
I think it was maybe a brain tumor or something, and he ended up putting on quite a lot of weight because they did a Friday Night Dinner sort of retrospective, and he was really poorly, but he wanted to come on it and do the interview bits and stuff, and he looked very different, to his old self, and it was really sad, he was taken too early, awful, really. But
no, completely. I mean, his comment. Oh, the hamster's up. You must have heard the chirp.
Had the guineas.
Well, the guinea pigs,
yeah.
I would
recommend Friday Night Dinner. My wife and I watch it quite regularly.
Friday Night Dinner is good. It's good. The other one that's hilarious is the school one with the mums.
Motherland.
I've seen that one. Yeah, that's quite good.
My wife. What's the bloke in it? What's his name?
I know. Yeah. Well, the useless one.
Yeah.
No, he's the one who's he's all in with the mums and stuff and the PTA.
Yeah. And he's all very kind of
And he is absolutely rubbish, and he ends up shagging what's her name? What's something you never think is going to happen when you watch
Kevin.
Is it Kevin?
Yeah,
shut up, Kevin. Yeah.
My wife always says, "You're like Kevin at school," in the PTA and all the mums.
Nice.
And I'm like, I've seen enough of it to know that's not a nice.
That was not meant in a nice way.
Not a compliment. That is not a compliment.
It's not, is it?
I don't have words, Geoff. I don't have words. Right. I'll tell you what. Should we just wrap this up recording-wise?
Yes. Thank you for listening, everyone. Hope you've enjoyed our extraneous ramblings there. I certainly have, and if you haven't, then I don't really know what to say to that.
Tough.
But, bring my robot action figure and my Tom Baker action figure next time on.
Yes, do. Yes, that'd be brilliant.
So we are going to be back with parts 3 and 4.
Yes,
robot.
We will be.
Giant robot. Call it what you will. One
robot.
Of those.
Yeah. So join us then, and thanks for listening. And we'll catch you next time.
See you next time, listeners. Bye for now.
Thank you.
Bye.